Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to a review of a watch that is crazy, mental, bonkers and off the wall. I like to throw these at you every 3 or 4 months or so. And more often than not these days they have the word Xeric on them somewhere. No other brand does these mad statement timepieces quite like they do. It's their Apollo 15 50th anniversary lunar landing special edition. It's a revised version of their Trappist 2 NASA endorsed watch that they launched 2 years ago. Such is the power of having the NASA brand and the NASA logo on the dial of your watch that was the most successful watch campaign in history on Kickstarter. 18,000 units sold and over $5 million worth of pledges. Those figures are out of this world. I'm sure Xeric are therefore hoping for a repeat performance with this smaller Apollo 15. Smaller and more wearable, absolutely. It now also features American movements for the first time. Quartz moon phase and full automatic with plenty of funky dial options and a bunch of colours. You saw the pop-up, I'm sure. This video is sponsored by Xeric. This watch goes live on Kickstarter today. I will leave links in the description of the video. That means I can talk freely about the early bird prices. $279 for the quartz, $479 for the auto. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. Actually, $259 US for the quartz. This is a draft of the campaign. There's a heap of information here. I'll leave a link in the description, obviously, either to the Xeric website or to this campaign, depending on whether it's live or not. Always idea to thoroughly research the campaign to properly dig into it for as much information as possible. And there it is, the NASA brand logo. Such a strong brand to have on your wrist, such a strong non-watch brand to have on your wrist. I've been trying to think of other brands that have that same power. Car brands have tried it with varying results, shall we say. I mean, I think Audi get it right here to an extent. It's the right style of watch, but still probably not something I would be wearing myself. Ferrari, that's got to be the cheapest Ferrari you can buy in all senses of the word. The big sports brands try it as well. Such power on their own right. Nike with mixed results as sports watches, tie-ins with other companies. And we've all seen these Adidas watches lurking in the bargain bin of Walmart for $15, have we? So not every brand is suitable for a wristwatch. This one seemingly 18,000 sales from the last campaign. Definitely suitable. All right, plenty to talk about today, not least of which is these new movements. 2 American-made movements, 1 quartz, 1 automatic. I was hoping they'd send me the auto, but they didn't. They sent me the quartz. You can just about see it ticking there. Anyway, I will discuss both during the review. I reckon there are probably 8 or 9 nods to the Apollo 15 mission, either on the watch itself or the packaging. That is the mission patch there. It is also replicated on the crown that I'll show you later. And there is the watch. Quite a different proposition in some ways to the Trappist 2. I think there are pros and cons to both of the models. I thought what I'd do today is I rattle through the dimensions and specifications early, then I'll flip it. I'll give you the negatives first, the moans and niggles, before I then go on to the positives with this one. So actually a really neat set of dimensions. I said they had reduced the size from the Trappist to this Apollo 15. Much smaller, much more wearable. You'd barely notice it was a funky watch unless you were looking at it, put it that way. So 40 millimeters in diameter, bang on 12 mil thick, with a 47 mil lug to lug. Quite conventional set of dimensions really. The last one was 44 and 18 mil thick, so this one much more wearable. 20 millimeter lug width, and on this supplied Horween leather strap. This is one of the things that's meant to remind you of lunar missions. This meant to remind you of the astronauts' gloves that they wore back in the 60s and 70s. On the supplied Horween strap, this one weighs in at 75 grams. So yeah, it's actually a neat and unobtrusive little watch to wear. 316L stainless steel case, crown and case back. The case back is pretty spectacular. I'll show you that in a minute. One upgrade is the move from Hesalite to double domed sapphire crystal with anti-reflective undercoating. Not sure how much anti-reflective undercoating they've put on this sample. Again, I'll talk about that later when I get this one outside. And it's nicely finished and nicely put together. Even if you're not into the whole Xeric extreme design thing, you can't argue with the way that they put their watches together. So we have a radially brushed upper surface to that bezel, vertical brushing on the mid case, and those kind of vintage style claw lugs almost. There's a couple of polished elements, Polish back down to the case back for comfort, and there's a kind of little polished undercut to that bezel. Now the crown, once again the mission crest appears there, as do the tracks of the lunar landing module in a sequence around the outside. Again, so many little space touches. Now a cupola, the whole thing is designed to look like an observation deck of a spaceship. You've got those markings there on the hours and the circular section in the middle all look like the windows of a deck, as if you were staring out into the black yonder. The last one actually had the Trappist constellation on the dial. I'm not sure, there's nothing in the information that I've been sent about whether those stars relate to something in particular or they're just general random stars. They've changed from NASA in letters to the NASA logo on this one. Another difference between this and the previous model. And that is the case back, solid stainless steel, screw on, as you can see, 4 screws there. Now this is a sample, it says 3 atmospheres. The campaign claims 5 atmospheres of water resistance for these, so again, check the campaign for your own information. So a little lunar scene there depicting the Dune buggy, the lunar module that they took up there and left in 1971. They just dumped it on the moon, but very nice, once again advertising that 50-year anniversary. All of these are going to be limited numbered editions, limited to 1971, commemorating the year. Each of the different colourways just under 2,000 units therefore. Right, let's have a look at the dial and hands under macro outside and answer the question, what time is it anyway? Well, at the end of the day, it is still just a conventional 3-hander, even if the hands do look somewhat different. This quartz one has a moon phase in the centre following the 29.5-day moon cycle. You'll see it kind of wax and wane over the course of those nearly 30 days. If you want to read the time, you're just looking at the 2 moons towards the outer edge. The large moon is the hour, the small moon is the minute, and yeah, you just line them up as you would a pair of hands. The second hand is the slightly tricky one. We seem to have 5 or 6 different little stars rotating away there. You know, if you're going to time something into the seconds with this, there is one that pushes to the outer edge. I guess that is the one you'd be using, but this is not really about accurate timekeeping, is it? There is a minute track around the outer edge as well for reference, and those cupola striations, the cupola lines do line up to the hours, so it's not that difficult to read when you get used to it, but yeah, you need to get used to it. NASA logo loud and proud right in the center circle there. That's the real reason you're buying this one, isn't it? So how does it wear? Well, it actually wears pretty much like a conventional 40-20 watch. Very, very comfortable strap. I love Horween. It is my favourite leather. Nice hardware on there, kind of Xeric branded and brushed to match that upper bezel of the watch. 75 grams. I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. I think a lot of people who may have been put off by the sheer scale of the Trappist will find this one much more to their liking. It's going to suit a much wider variety of wrists as a consequence as well. If you didn't know you were wearing something this odd on your wrist, you certainly wouldn't know it by the way the watch wears. It feels just like a standard watch. Legibility, yeah, like I said, that's not really what this one is about. It's a bit of fun, it's a conversation starter, it's a bit of a statement piece, so it's not about telling the time at a glance. Having said that though, it's currently 6 minutes to 2. Outside natural light, like I said, they claim anti-reflective undercoating, but I'm not sure how much. You know, there is definitely a bit of flecto, more than a bit of flecto from this, but as I've said a couple of times, it's not really about the practicalities, is it? On wrist, that's how it wears outside. Love the Horween, super comfortable. And short lug to lug when I show you looking down my wrist. If you are mad enough to wear this one with a suit, that domed sapphire will slip comfortably under a cuff. But are you brave / mad enough to wear this one under a suit? That is the question. Let's talk about the moans and niggles first then before I get into some of the things that I like about this. You're going to have to think about how often you wear a watch like this, you know, as an occasional wear piece, a conversation starter, etc, etc. A bit of fun to add to your collection. I can see it making sense, but if you're going to wear this one as a daily, if you're thinking about it in those terms, then you need to think about the practicalities, including legibility, there's the lack of date, and you need to clarify the water resistance rating. 30 meters is not great. 50 meters, 5 atmospheres, at least you wouldn't be running for cover every time there was a splash of rain, much like all those who bought Omega Speedmasters, nudge nudge, wink wink. And then there is the move to this new compact size. Far more wearable than the Trappist from 2019, but not quite as dramatic as that big whopper was. I remember when I opened the box of the Trappist, I literally said, oh my God. And looking at it here, you can see why. It was, in its sheer scale, absolutely magnificent. This one doesn't quite have the drama because it is a much more compact and wearable size. So there is definitely a trade-off there. If you've got the original and it's just a bit too big for you, you should definitely be considering this one, but it's not quite as wildly out there as its predecessor. And in terms of pricing, $259 for the quartz. If you are looking for an occasional wear piece, that's probably going to be the biggest seller. $479 for the auto. You're going to have to think about that, extra long and extra hard, if it's just going to be something that slots into a collection and is worn occasionally. Let's talk about some positives then, starting with the Lume. The Lume on this watch is bonkers. They actually give you a little UV torch in with a package, which suggests that they are well aware, Xeric are well aware, that the Lume is going to be part of the appeal of this one. So much appeal that I took 2 different Lume videos. I'll give you the real close-up one first and then I'll show you what it looks like from a distance a bit later on. Initial glow is awesome. The 2 big moons / hands are fabulously bright, as is that outer edge, the minute track there, and even all of those little stars glistening away on your wrist. It is a very, very pleasing effect. If I turn the speed up though, however, it's not quite there come the end of the 20-minute period. The 2 hands still are, so you're still going to get a read on them. The last one had tritium though, tritium tubes on those hour and minute hands. This one doesn't, so yeah, the Lume is incredibly initially bright, but perhaps not quite as bright as it could be long term. And then there are the movements. A definite positive of this model is an American movement in a watch celebrating an American achievement, landing on the moon and exploring the moon. Now there's 2, I can't show you them, but I can show you pictures, both manufactured by Fine Timepiece Solutions in Arizona. The quartz one, various calibers. This one they've chosen the moon phase, plus or minus 20 seconds per month. You'll get roughly 2 years from a battery as well, and it is assembled in the USA. Both of these movements assembled in the USA. The automatic they call the Americron Caliber X 3.1. 28,800 vibrations per hour, so it is a high beat movement with 23 joules and a stated accuracy of plus or minus 20 seconds per day and a 40-hour power reserve. I obviously can't speak to their long-term reliability or durability, but great to see new automatic and quartz movements coming into the market at the affordable $500 or less price bracket. And have I mentioned that it is officially endorsed by NASA? Yeah, that is definitely the biggest positive of this watch. It looks outrageous, but it's actually quite practical. It is actually quite wearable in its own way, and such an amazing brand that isn't a watch brand to have on your wrist. So definitely one for the space cadets today, one for the patriots who wish to celebrate American achievements of the 1970s. And as it seems today, we're involved in another space race, the world's richest men spending billions and billions of their own dollars, getting themselves and anybody else they can to space and ultimately to the moon. It's worth remembering that we've been there before half a century ago. So there you have it. Let's see if this one blows up Kickstarter quite like the Trappist. If your watch collection is boring and needs livening up, why not check out 2 previous Xeric reviews, their Halograph 2 and the Soloscope. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.